Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our fourth round of sessions. Joining me now is Bryan Adams. He is the CEO and founder of Ph.Creative, recognized as one of the leading employer brand agencies in the world. Bryan is also a best-selling author, podcaster, creative strategist, and specialist speaker. He is considered a prominent employer brand thought leader, and his creative, unconventional, and even controversial methodologies are set to regularly change the way people think about employer branding and EVP. His presentation style is energetic, passionate, thought-provoking, and interactive, so get ready to contribute and engage. Thank you, Bryan, again for speaking at one of our events. We're really glad to have you here for taking time out of your day to do this. I will be here throughout the session, so if you need anything, you can just send me a chat, and then I can come back on and help you with anything that you need help with. So that's it from my end, so you can carry on with your presentation.
Magic. Thank you, Sandra. And hello, everybody. I've got so much to pack in. I'm going to jump right in. Today, I want to talk about employer brand and the strategic approach. And hopefully, I'll give you some things to think about. And I want to challenge how we approach cultivating a reputation as an employer. So although I'll touch on reputation, expectation, and experience, which are the three building blocks of employer brand strategy, I'm going to major on reputation. Let's see if I can change how you think about that, or maybe just give you something to think about, or at least something tangible to take away. Everything we talk about today is experience by design. And by the way, if you ever see, this is my favorite quote, if you ever see that quote by Maya Angelou, and those bananas, it's probably somebody who's a client or a fan of Ph.Creative. That's our #1 stolen slide, I'm pleased to say. But it's true, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And we mustn't forget that when we're thinking about employer brand, whether it's the reputation, the proposition, or the experience. Okay, so 4 very different brands that you're all familiar with, I am sure. Each would probably cultivate a different sort of image in your head, or different thoughts or feelings, I am sure. But nevertheless, love it or hate it, it has a very distinct reputation. And I wonder whether, if you look at your own business, whether you have a very distinct reputation that unanimously people would articulate in a similar fashion. And ultimately, that's what I want for you today, or at least to work towards. What a little sort of frustration of mine is whenever I ask anybody, what do you want your employer brand reputation to be? The answers I typically get are the most attractive employer, or the world's best employer. Kind of reminds me of when I was growing up. You'd ask one of your friends, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" "Oh, I want to be famous." And it's like, well, famous for what? It doesn't really mean anything. And certainly, I think it's a big contributing factor as to why some business leaders don't value or prioritize employer brand as highly as they could, because they don't see the correlation with the priorities of the business and the value employer brand can bring, and certainly the reputation as an employer and the importance that has on the overall mix of leading a business forward. And in today's day and age, this isn't about just being the best. And I think this is a very well-known brand, Avis. And they're very proud of the fact that they're #2 in rental cars, but they turn that perceived weakness into a strength, because they say we try harder. And actually, there's an emotional connection in there. It's a very clever way of underpinning what your brand stands for and what you can expect when you experience the brand. The litmus test for an employer brand, reputation plus the proposition and the experience, should lead to an easy decision. Okay, so there's the first little sort of formula for sort of think about, okay, does my reputation plus the proposition, the EVP, the employee value proposition, and the experience that we offer as a brand lead to an easy decision, whether for a candidate to join or whether for an employee to stay or leave? Unfortunately, with the great resignation, or the great epiphany, as I call it, this has led to a lot of people walking out of a lot of organizations for many different reasons. So we really have to sort of reflect on the reputation we've created over the last 18 months as an employer, and where that has led us to be, and where we must start to build to go forward in time. this is some research from McKinsey. And what it points out is employers don't fully understand why employees are leaving. The great epiphany, people are like, oh, this is a great company. Why are great people leaving? Some of the biggest things, so the blue aspects of this quadrant, the more important to employees than employers. And the gray aspects are as important to employees as employers think. But look, valued by the organization, valued by the manager, sense of belonging, potential advancement, flexible working schedule, have caring and trusting teammates. A lot of those have got a very human connection, very distinct. But it's interesting, isn't it, in this world? But what it points out actually is this bigger study. If you Google it, the McKinsey study for why employees are leaving organizations. It's the correlation between there is a gap between what employers think is important and what employees think is important. And it's not all about strength and leading from the front. And I think Airbnb through the pandemic had to let a lot of people go. So they were in a position of weakness and social vulnerability. But actually, their brand has such a positive sentiment, and their growth has had such a bounce back based on the empathy and compassion that their leaders showed. So when Bryan Chesky announced that they had to let so many people go, they did it with dignity, empathy, compassion. They let people keep their laptops. They set up lists of great people and made it easy for other organizations to access their information. And they really thought about how could they make this as painless as possible. And what they were actually doing, unbeknownst to them at the time, was building an incredible bond with their alumni and increasing their brand sentiment, which all anchors back to who they are as an organization, their brand values and purpose. Okay. When we're trying to be the best we can be, if we look at brand awareness, the recruitment, employee experience and engagement, alumni support and engagement, which is often overlooked, there's a lot to that relay race that goes round and round and round. You can spend a lot of time and effort and budget trying to be world-class at every stage. What I want to share with you today is the correlation between employer brand strategy, reputation, and if we approach it strategically, then actually we don't need to be world-class at all of these stages because we've got limited time, limited budget, limited focus. So by being more strategic and articulating our reputation with clarity and precision, it'll show us where we should spend the time and budget to make the moments that matter really count with our talent experience. And this model is probably the easiest way of laying it out. And essentially what I'm talking about is if we decide the reputation that we need as an employer that's aligned with the business, we set the course strategically. And this is also what's going to get the attention of your talent audience, certainly externally. That then can give us a lens to point on how we determine the proposition and we optimize the conditions to support the reputation we're trying to build. But that proposition, the give and get, as I call it, is where we build affinity with our audience. Does this feel like a place where I can belong or not? Does this feel like a place where I can progress or not? Does this feel like a place where I can create purpose, impact, and belonging? So that's the affinity aspect. And again, we've set the course, we've optimized the conditions, we know the reputation we want, we have a proposition now. With that information, strategically, we can then prioritize the experience so we can focus time and budget. And that's where we create affection. So I love this idea of attention, affinity, and affection. It's a very human approach to employer brand strategy. And this is a business planning strategy model, which I've stolen with pride from gazelles.com, and it's from the Rockefeller Habits, a fantastic business strategy book. So this won't come as a sort of surprise with core values, building on purpose, targets, goals, action, and schedule. And you can see there it's who, when, how, what, where, and why, and then should. So like indicating guiding principles with core values as well. So this is something that your business leaders will be, and yourselves probably very familiar with. And the the cadence as well for this is really important. So starting with the core values, the forever. Purpose is the lifespan of the leader, which is like there's a sort of difference between those two things. Then targets 3 to 5 years, goals annually, actions quarterly, schedule weekly and daily. Can really give clarity to the strategic direction of an organization. Okay, so where does reputation, proposition, and experience fit into this? It's kind of inverted. So reputation, the employer brand, is plugging directly, aligning, correlating with the core values, purpose, and targets. And your employer brand really should set the course for at least 3 to 5 years. The proposition, the employee value proposition, is something that drives the goals and actions of your organization and needs to be refined quarterly and annually. And then your experience is weekly, daily, the living and breathing, bringing it to life. But actually the targets that you set strategically down here will be carried out with usually there's a people derivative to any target within an organization. Well, what I'm hoping you'll see here is the correlation between the employer brand strategy of reputation, proposition, and experience, and how it fits together with existing priorities of the organization. And if you do that, you're going to talk the language of your leaders and get the attention, time, and budget that you need to progress. And just to put that into context and to mirror this, the reputation is the why, proposition is the how, and the experience is the where. Okay, so when we talk about reputation, I've got 3 C's for you. Okay, the first one is culture. HubSpot have a very well-known culture. People join that organization because I think consistently they're seen as 3rd or 4th best employer in the world unanimously, and not just in these lists that people do or don't read, but actually, it's widely known that HubSpot have a fantastic culture. In the middle here, this is Patagonia. Patagonia have consistently for 30 or 40 years dedicated their organization towards bettering the planet. And their idea of their C is that they represent citizenship. Through the pandemic, Black Lives Matter and social unrest, citizenship with millennials running the world now, officially, citizenship's actually gone top of the list. People are making decisions, career decisions based on your ethics, the integrity of your leader, your community outreach and engagement, your environmental policy, and how socially responsible you are, your philanthropic activities and such. These are big decisions. These are big indicators and deciding factors when people are deciding who to join. And then finally, career catalyst. McKinsey, I mentioned them earlier, but McKinsey are known as a career catalyst, a talent accelerator. If you can survive for 2 years in McKinsey, they have an up and out mentality, a very high performance culture. If you can survive that, there's a very good chance you'll go on to work at one of the big 4 tech companies. In fact, most people who leave McKinsey after 2, 3, 4 years have got a really good shot at working at Google, which getting a job at Google is 40 times harder than getting a place in Harvard. So their reputation so McKinsey, they don't look at it as they lose talent to Google. They build a reputation around the place to go if you want to accelerate your career and go on to bigger and better things, and they do incredibly well because of that. So those 3 things again: culture, citizenship, and career catalyst. Here they are in a diagrammatic format, and if you've read my book Give and Get Employer Branding, you'll know I talk about impact, purpose, and belonging. If you haven't, not too late. Still top of the charts in Amazon and available in all good bookshops. That's the plug. But if we look at where impact, purpose, and belonging intersect, this is where you'll see impact and purpose, career catalyst. So some of the proof points of that: career advancement, access to development, challenging work, your external reputation, obviously, diversity, compensation. So, and you can see the other elements to citizenship and culture, as I've talked about with the examples of HubSpot and Patagonia. Now, typically, people are making career decisions based on primarily one of these things: or a mixture of all three? And as an organization, you probably have a natural strength in one of these camps. And I urge you to forge a reputation as an employer around one of these C's at least, with a long tail of how you satisfy people in the other areas as well. McKinsey, very strong career catalyst, but actually they have an interesting, well-defined culture. It's not for everybody, but that's okay. And their give and get from a employee experience perspective is very distinct. It's very clear what you have to give in order to get what they have to offer. So in your organization, you will have natural strengths and weaknesses in these areas. Decide what is the most aligned with your the direction of travel for your business, and nail your colors to a mast. Now you have absolute clarity and simplicity to build a reputation around and understand why people will come to your organization. And of course, the motivators and drivers of your talent audience play a role in that. If most people join organizations such as yours to accelerate their career, then of course you need a strong presence in Career Catalyst. But most of your competitors, I guarantee, do not have a tangible target from a reputational perspective, a reputation as an employer. Most organizations in the marketplace, when asked, just say, we want to be the best in the world. We want to be known as a great place to work. And it's not cutting it, and it's not strategic, and it's not best practice. So once you've decided on that, how do you use the building blocks? Well, essentially, you've got your global insights, you've got persona insights. So there might be different talent segments that are more important to your organization than others. There's going to be geographic insights that play a role. And then you can decide career catalyst, culture, citizenship. That's your cocktail that makes you unique. Okay, so when you shake those things up and you rationalize it all down, what are the core components, the key ingredients that keep surfacing throughout your organization? What gets the attention of your leadership in your organization? Because building a reputation in a certain fashion will directly support existing priorities of your company, or put fires out, or strengthen weaknesses that must be strengthened in order to move forward. So not only does it give clarity and focus to your talent audience, it increases the value inside your organization. It opens up doors. It definitely gets you more time with leaders. And it most certainly gets you budget and scope to forge new initiatives that can be proven to be significantly important to your organization across the board. So Career Catalyst as an example, some of the things that you need to bear in mind, and like I've taken a lot of this stuff from the case study of McKinsey. They overinvest in their recruiters. They have 1.4% of their workforce is made up of recruiters, which is a big number compared to 4 times less in most of their competitors. A lot of their recruiters come from big tech companies, so they can talk the language of high performance individuals that are important to McKinsey. They support and promote their best talent. And it's perfectly okay for people to leave McKinsey. It's not seen as a negative or a weakness for somebody to leave McKinsey. People are encouraged to do that. And if you think about that, it creates space for career progression right the way through an organization, which is healthy. But also, it's difficult to get a job at McKinsey. It's tough to survive and cope. The compensation is great. There's great learning and development and obvious progression. And then we've got flexibility, stability, integrity, and of course, diversity. And diversity is seen in the citizenship camp. It's the right thing to do. But now there is a very strong business case, and people are selfishly choosing organizations with diversity because they know that's better for their career, which is a fantastic insight to bear in mind, and about time as well. You might agree, I'm sure. So a simple way to decide which organizational reputation you need to start forging: ask the question, what reputation do we need to drive our business forward? And then if we say, okay, so what motivates our talent the most? What aligns with our business the easiest? What differentiates us from our competition? And score yourself 1 to 10 in each of these boxes, and very quickly you'll get an indicator of where you should be focusing. Once you have a good idea of that, we then move into the sort of the proposition. And I know I wanted to talk primarily about reputation today, but it's really important then once you've got that, you understand, okay, what talent does the business need? Because again, this will underpin and validate the reputation you're forging and play a brilliant role, a really key and integral role in the proposition that you create. And I break it down really simply from a capability perspective. You have brilliance, which most organizations are very au fait and articulate at sort of spelling out, but also you have brilliance and resilience. And the coping capabilities are just as important as the performing capabilities. And if you can distill down what's required to thrive and survive in your organization from those two perspectives, you'll have all the building blocks you need to build a really authentic proposition that underpins, validates, and amplifies the reputation you're trying to forge. And it's important that when you look at those capabilities, you're not just looking at your organization on the best day through rose-tinted glasses. You're looking at the worst day as well, and and somewhere and everywhere in between. Because to be authentic, a candidate needs to feel like they've got all the information in front of them in terms of answering the one question: do I have what it takes to thrive? And that includes what are the harsh realities and the adversities, the challenges, the commitments, and the sacrifices that I can expect to have to commit to get ahead in your organization. And without those things, it might sound like they're the negatives, but actually it's not. Without those things, the idea of toughness and scarcity and believing in a reputation that's positioned quite high, well, anything worthwhile in life isn't easy. So prove it by, what are the things I need to navigate? What are the obstacles I need to overcome? What are the achievements I need to work towards? What capabilities are under that? What can I expect to have to grow into or bring to get all of the spoils that are on offer in this organization? And that validates and elevates the reputation that you're trying to build. It actually accelerates it as well. So when you think about your proposition, you give and get, there's a clue in the name proposition. It's a two-way street, two-way value exchange. So to live up to the reputation that you're building, we talk about what's on offer, but what do people need to bring? Be very clear about that. And when you think about now how you bring that to life through the talent experience, look at all of the things that you need to address and simplify and make consistent from a brand perspective. Once you know the reputation, you've got a good idea of the proposition, there might be just elements and aspects of part of your talent journey that if I only focus on training and development, our reputation as a career catalyst will be solidified and amplified, and we can tell stories about training and development linked to progression and prove that if you work with us, we'll accelerate your career tenfold compared to our competitors. Now strategically, you know where to focus and invest. Trying to be the best at all of these things is a very difficult challenge, especially with limited time and budget. So what I want you to think about today is the reputation proposition shows you where to double down and place your bets from a talent experience perspective. There's a lot to think about. There's your own media, your paid media, you've got your advocates and events. There's a lot of moving parts. Now, if we want to forge a reputation as a career catalyst, for example, it might be that we focus on alumni experience, which is the most underinvested, underutilized community in the whole talent experience. And I actually predict that it's going to be the most important in the not too distant future as well. Okay, so think about this. Where would you now place your bets if you've got your reputation and your proposition? Where would you, has your mind been changed? Would your budget be placed elsewhere now if you've got that focus? I'm conscious of time. I've got an example for you. I'll whistle through this, and I think that'll be my time up. But this is British Telecom. When we first started working with them, they had a reputation for being quite dull, old, massive, irrelevant, and boring to tech talent. By the time we were finished, we had our campaign projected on the BT Tower, which is kind of like the CN Tower in local parts around here to relate to. It's called We Are the Protectors. We started by making a drama, a film to heighten and dramatize what it felt like to work at BT, and also to emphasize the scarcity and the difficulty of the challenge that we're asking people to contribute towards. We went big and bold with campaigns emphasizing the importance of the work and the challenges that you face in the employee experience for people to really lean in with. And we were focused on the career catalyst aspect. We put unbranded challenges in Reddit to really draw out great talent, to be challenged and engaged, to build attention and affinity towards the brand before we built affection. And once they cracked those challenges, this was an online and physical escape room where, again, you had to experience the brand, and this where the sort of affection came in and changed the perception of British Telecom to this talent segment. The experience then, from an experience perspective, we knew exactly where we needed to focus. So we dramatized the challenge, and we saw it right the way through to the finer points. Even when you got your offer letter, you needed a black light because it was cybersecurity. You needed a black light to see some of the details, which injected personality and character and kept it on theme. Even with down to using AR to in the swag and the unboxing of sending things out through onboarding. Right from the start, we wanted to create the reputation of innovation and career catalyst, and that was very clear with the proposition. Super difficult to get an opportunity at BT, and then we help people live the experience for it, and right the way down to like podcasts and sort of the content that we created. So that's a very quick way of demonstrating how we can creatively bring all of that to life. But I hope more than anything today, I've given you something to think about in terms of making your reputation as an employer very tangible, focused, and aligned with your business priorities. And I think if you do that, you'll get further ahead from an employer branding perspective. You get more budget from your leaders, and you might just get a change that really impacts your organization and accelerates your culture as a result. So that's all we've got time for. I appreciate you listening. I hope you've got some value from that. If you want to reach out, I can be contacted on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. And don't forget, there's more insights and nuggets in Give and Get employer branding, which can be found on Amazon or any good bookshop. Thanks so much. I think that's all we've got time for, Sandra. Is there any time for questions at all? It looks like we've got a couple of more minutes. So does anybody have any questions around reputation as an employer, EVP, or the talent experience, or how they fit together, in fact? Anything at all that I can dive into with the remaining couple of minutes that we've got left? All right. Well, thanks again for your time. Really appreciated talking to you today. And if anyone wants to know any more, please, by all means, reach out on LinkedIn. And check our website out at www.ph-creative.com. We're running an employer brand strategy sprint course, which runs every 2 months. It's 2 weeks intensive training, 80% pre-recorded content, 20% live sessions where we give you lots of models and nuggets to help you improve your employer brand approach. So please check that out as well. I've actually got a slide I can share about that. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. No, it's useless. There we go. So if you go to our website and look for this logo, book on that. I think the next one is in January. And usually there's about 50 or 60 EB leaders. There's a great Slack community and it gets great feedback. So please do check that out. Are you there, Sandra? All right, well, I think that's everything, folks. If there's no questions, I'll give you some time back and we can join some other sessions and enjoy the rest of the event. Well, thanks once again for your time today.